Coming up next on The Mikey Martin Show.
In thinking about recovery, I think a lot of us try to look at the result when we have to look at what's causing that. Why do we even need the recovery? Something that I've realized helped me personally is just having little dance breaks. Like,
yes,
I just feel like a lot of people don't even dream big enough. I got a point in my life where I genuinely believed I could do anything. Okay, 3 words: dream, plan, do. The only barrier for me and what I want to achieve is myself, and taking ownership of that and then just executing on it.
Guys, welcome to the show today. We have the best person on here today. This is Kiannalie Sarmiento. She is a Peruvian American. She's an entrepreneur. She's currently doing a lot of computer web development and things like that. She's a student in college, but get this, she actually brought the Latinas in Tech to Utah and became the chair. She just actually left that to go and pursue her new social entrepreneurship efforts. She's got so many great things to share with us today, and she's here. So we're so excited. Kiannalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mikey. I'm excited.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, she's an old book lover, and I wanted to ask what that meant. We put in her bio. What does that mean, Kiannalie? What you're an old book lover?
Yes. So anytime either myself or a friend finds themselves in a antique shop or something like that, I always have them pick up an old thought book. And so essentially back in the day, instead of having like Pinterest or Instagram to get inspiration, they'd have these little pocket quote books. And they're, back, you can tell who are the favorite ones because they, have like more Carnegie or more whatever. And so I just love picking that up in the morning, reading a few quotes, getting me excited for the day, and sharing those with my friends. And it's a fun little collection. I only have a few of them, but hoping to grow. So if you ever find one,
let
me
know. No, that sounds super cool. I think there's a lot to be learned from these older books because it shows a different perspective than we have today that
totally
is really driven by a lot of social media and stuff. But we're connected, but I like that other perspective.
It's a little more authentic, I would say.
It's a really good way to put it. Okay, well, we're going to get right into it. First off, we want you to just go over, who are you? What's your brand? What's your mission?
Mm-hmm. I would say, besides, the bio and all that good stuff, I think, my biggest passion in life is just giving opportunities for people. And the way I've been doing that is through tech. A lot of people like to describe me as, moxie is a fun word. It just means courageous, bold, fun, with a little spice of nerdy in there. Grew up in a home that's very science-based and logic. And so I'm also very entrepreneurial. So it's, I love anything tech and anything business. You can find me there and talking about it.
I love it. And what's kind of your mission?
Like, I kind of just like what I mentioned, I really feel like I want to bring opportunities to everyone, no matter where you come from. My grandpa, he grew up in begged on the streets, grew up in a dirt floor, 1-bedroom home in Peru. And seeing where he's now in the States, education helped him get there. Of course, a lot of things, a lot of people. And my dad, too, is immigrated here. And so I want to bring that opportunity to anyone, no matter where you are in the world. It doesn't just mean coming here to the States. There can be talent found in any place. And to me, I think technology is the way to do that. And I think that passes any time and any borders. And so I love it.
I love that. You're bringing your mission into the new age and really helping to take advantage of all this technology that we've never had to solve this problem that is huge, of giving opportunities to people, especially immigrants, and helping them to really make a new home and a new life. That's huge.
No, it's what happened with my family. That's how I'm here. It's 100% because of opportunities that were given to my family and education. And so, it's awesome.
Well, it's how we're all here. I mean, if we're being real, everybody who comes to this country, we're all immigrants. It's a new country.
It's true.
We've been around that long. Like, this is what we should all be doing. So I'm so happy you're here on the show. My topic that we always talk about is recovery. So I'm excited to get your perspective today. So I want to know, what do you do for recovery? And specifically, like, how do you do the recovery? Like, talk me through the tone, the focus. What do you do for recovery?
Recovery for me honestly looks like a lot of meditation and a lot of self-reflection. I think, why do we, in thinking about recovery, I think a lot of us try to look at the result when we have to look at what's causing that. Why do we even need the recovery, right? And I think if
Huge
you're
insight. Huge.
right,
Everyone listening should hear that again. What's
well, and
causing it?
yeah,
Huge.
what's even causing it? And I think when I look back, when I'm not doing what I genuinely love, that's when I feel like I'm having to do a lot of recovery. Or if I'm in a really high stress, I'm not following who I actually am. That's when I feel like I'm needing that recovery. So meditation helps me to really figure out, listen to that true self. I don't know if you've read the book by Deepak Chopra, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. He talks about reflecting on your true self. And I think that that helps me kind of realign my priorities and realign, so then I can go forward and feel more rejuvenated, if that makes sense.
I love book recommendations on here. I think it's such a big thing, but I just want to stop and point out, I think it's so amazing that you've already come up with this insight, that the fact that your recovery's end goal is to realign yourself with your identity.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you've heard of Ed Milet, he talks about how he's like, identity is just, it's the governor in our lives. It dictates what we do and how we think about things, and recognizing that you can change that or decide to become the person you want to be, like realigning with that and staying on that path is how you get there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
yeah. Well,
big
and I
insight.
just feel like, yeah, I just feel like a lot of times people spend a lot of time trying to become something and not trying to become someone, trying to become someone who they really are, right? And I think that's just that helps you really recover and then move on from those, whatever it is that you're going through, if you know that base principle, that who you are.
So lots of meditation.
Yeah.
What were the other things you said?
I would say it would be a lot of meditation. And honestly, like, this is just on the side.
Sure.
For me, when I'm like, getting stressed out or whatever it is with work or with school, something that I've realized helped me personally is just having little dance breaks. Like, Mikey, I kid
Yes.
you not. I kid you not. I have, like, I don't know. I was talking once to, I think she's a CTO of Hopin. I don't remember. It was at a networking event, and she said this, and I was like, okay, I'm not the only Latina out there doing this. But like, when I would get stressed out, I just put on some music. I'll like close my door and just like have a little jam sesh, like release, like get myself back to like what makes me happy, right? Because dancing, it brings you back to my childhood. It's who I am. And so that kind of, in a way, it's almost realigning again to who I am, but it's just fun. It gets your mind off of, my mind off of coding or whatever it is, working with different teams. And it's fun. So those are my two main recovery. I mean, of course, just like working out and like doing all those good things.
Sure.
But for me personally, I think what has made the biggest difference are those two rituals.
So good. I love that. Well, and I like that, because the thing is, I think a lot of people, when they think about the tone or the focus during recovery, they think of it as being like kind of just sitting there and being like, why am I breathing? Like, I'm doing this meditation thing, and
Yeah.
why am I doing this? And it's like, you're like, no, I get out and I dance.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it feels so good head to toe. You're like, you're just letting it out. You're letting your brain get refreshed, ready to refocus.
Yeah, you're not thinking about whatever it is. Because that's the thing. I feel like a lot of times, and this is interesting because just this week alone, I've had this experience where and these last 2 weeks, so I'm in a class right now where we're learning data structures and algorithms. And so every week we have this big project due, right?
Okay.
And I'm telling you, towards the beginning of the semester, it was really stressful. And I was trying to just like sit there, and I'm like, sit there for hours and hours and hours, just try to get it done. And this last week I did a different test. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stick to my workout schedule. I'm going to stick to like going out and being with friends, give myself those breaks, right?
Nice.
Give myself that time to really recover. And then I'm able to go back and like really focus 110%. So if you like, but then the difference of the previous weeks is I would go do those things, but I would still have my mind on the computer, the program that I was trying to build. And so it was that real mental release, that letting go, that understanding, okay, this is my time to really release. And maybe that's what meditation is too, is you're really just letting go of whatever it is. That's what I do in my meditation practice, is just envision letting go of different things. And I think that is how your mind can fully go back to, I mean, I would love to see the science behind that, honestly, but to go back to where, so you're really starting off with a clean plate.
Yeah. Well, and again, if we have any listeners that have any science behind that, throw it our way, because
please.
we're looking to learn this. That's kind of the point of this podcast. We want to create a community that is based on all this recovery. And I think learning the science behind it is going to help us actually really drill into the practices. But I think that is so good. I mean, the fact that the dancing too is part of your identity. I think that's so, anyway, So good. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you have any stories? I mean, you are a high achieving person. You really like to go for it. And more than that, you like to take the weight of other people's problems and put them on you. You're trying to find them the opportunities, which I think is so cool. And frankly, guys, high performing people are usually those who try and solve other people's problems and really try and help them, especially in tough situations. So, my question is, do you have any stories where you might have had like a breakdown or something because you failed to do any recovery due to lack of recovery? You have a breakdown, some sort of mental thing, or just you became incapable of working more or something like that.
Yeah. I think what caused me to really understand for myself that meditation was really important was I was at a point in my life about a year and a half ago where I guess like I had an opportunity and I had been applying for this opportunity for a long time. And because of COVID and a lot of things, I was taken from the opportunity and I had to go back to, I guess, like a plan B, right? So I was in Brazil, I was doing some awesome stuff, had to come home. And essentially, it was really hard because I was pushing myself trying to, okay, well, since I'm not doing this opportunity, I'm going to do something else. And I was pushing myself so hard, but I wasn't falling to what I actually really wanted to do, right? I wasn't following my true self. And it manifested in a lot of health problems. It manifested in a lot of stress. I mean, any little thing would just trip me up emotionally. Right. And so that's what kind of caused me to go down this meditation path. And that's why I spent a lot of time just really trying to figure out what I want for myself and what makes me, and going back to kind of what I said earlier, not trying to become someone or something, trying to become someone. And so a few months of just kind of hitting my head against the door for like, why am I not seeing success? Why am I not feeling fulfilled? It wasn't until I really took a lot of time to self-reflect and realize this is what I needed for me. This is what brings me true joy. This is what makes me feel fulfilled. And so and I think a part of that too was just the expectations I had of myself. I told myself, okay, by this time I need to have this done. And when I was taken from that, when I was pushed off that road, I realized like I was just so hard on myself. And so I needed that time to really recover, kind of take that bounce back and realize, okay, this is, first of all, get rid of that expectations of myself, and then and spending time on that self-discovery so that I can continue, so that I can really move forward. And so I don't know, I think, and then even just a micro example, like I mentioned, of just trying to finish a project but not giving myself the time to give the breaks, I think it manifests in bigger things in life, but also in a smaller, just like a simple project. I think I've realized those two, the bigger and the smaller, but so yeah.
Really good. No, I think anyway, I think a lot of people are probably relating to you right now. I think they're going like, man, like I keep pushing harder, but I keep hitting this wall that I just can't get past.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, frankly, just from thinking of a simple analogy, I'm thinking of the gym. Guys and girls, they'll just keep lifting and they're like, I'm hitting this roof and I can't get past it. And it's like, how is that guy who's like lifting less than me getting past me? And it's like, he's learning how to recover properly.
Exactly.
He's actually gaining the progress instead of just beating his muscles up so much and they never get a chance to actually get fixed and get the actual gain from your labor.
Right. Well, and the funny thing is, like, some people like look at this muscle growth and like, oh, that makes sense. Like, yeah, like I know I need to take a break, otherwise I'm not going to be able to fully recover. But then when it comes to your mind, people don't apply the same thing too. They're just like, no, I'm going to keep pushing. And that's the thing about the hustle culture. Look, I'm all about it. I'm all about hustling and grinding. But you got to know at what point, like a car doesn't just magically keep on running. It needs to refuel and get some gas at certain points, And so it's the same thing. It's like, it's just, I think that mentality needs to be applied in more than just, your physical body, and it needs to be applied in mentally, emotionally, and all these other ways.
Well, and I love that. Anyway, great analogies. And the point is, I mean, we're trying to get to the point where we can figure out for certain people and for different activities, what's the best, most effective kind of recovery? Because most of us don't have a lot of time in our day, or at least we think we don't, to get a lot of this stuff done, when in reality, maybe if we'd learn how to recover a little bit, we'd be a lot more effective. We'd get a lot more progress, and we'd probably have a lot more time. But super good examples. Let's go into, I mean, you were saying you kind of recognized recovery as you started going through some of these harder things and self-discovery, how old do you think you were when you first discovered recovery?
Honestly, it's a good question. I would say, I think my parents taught me a long time ago about balance in all things, right?
Nice.
Um, so maybe when I was like, what, 13, but I didn't actually internalize it until maybe I was like 18.
I think that's
And
huge. Nobody really knows what it is, but they kind
yeah,
of start doing it.
well, yeah. And it's like, whether for better or worse, like, experience is the best teacher. So, you just got to figure it out at one point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, you said you do meditation.
Yes.
I got into meditation because my brother bought me a book. It's called Tools for Titans, and it said, I think it was like 80% of the millionaires and billionaires that they interviewed for the book had some sort of mindfulness or
Oh,
meditation practice that they practice daily.
yeah.
So that got me to try it out, and that
Like if they're doing it, I'm doing it.
I know, well, it changed my life, and I thought it was so cool. But what kind of things? When you say you do meditation, what do you typically do? And
Yeah.
do you have like, a favorite kind of meditation that you could share with the group, maybe?
Mhm. I uh I think it depends on each person, really like what's the best for them.
Totally.
For me personally, I had tried different types of meditation, and what works the best for me is something that's called TM, which kind of I've got mixed feelings about it, to be honest, because I think
Awesome.
I think there's a a group out there that's trying to capitalize on this, which I like I said, respect the hustle. But something I actually heard it from, what is his name? He's a huge investor. I can't think of it right now, but he does it. Essentially, you have like a mantra and you just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And essentially, what it does, it's supposed to connect your subconscious mind to your conscious mind, and in just saying the same word over and over again. And there's a certain, like, it's like a word that doesn't mean anything. It's just like a noise, basically.
Wow.
And so it's kind of like when you hear, like, you see the typical stereotypical like nun just going like It's like the same thing, but like you just have a certain sound. And like I guess
Sure.
like, so for me, I found a sound, or I found like a word that doesn't mean this. I don't think of anything when I say it because it's just there. But essentially, what that practice is, what it's helping me do is just not. It's helping me focus on one thing so that I don't think about anything, and it helps me bring my subconscious and my conscious together. And so
Totally.
I'll start envisioning. I'll do my breathing. I'll be envisioning, third eye kind of stuff, and just kind of try to clear my mind. I really try to clear. I'll anything that is stressing me, I'll release it. I'll give it to the universe, and I'll just really focus on just focusing on the one word, so that I can just be in a state of calm. Because what'll happen is I'll start doing that, and then like, oh, I gotta do this comes into my mind, or oh, this person, or that one time I said that really stupid thing comes to mind. You know what I mean? Like all these things come to mind.
Oh yeah,
So I
we all
really
know.
gotta like, it takes me like a few minutes just to get there. And so once I really feel like I'm at a really, like, I guess, in a really chill state, or I don't even know the right word, the right scientific word, then I'll start
Probably
envisioning.
right brainwaves. You go
Yeah,
from
well,
theta to alpha, and
exactly.
where you're getting to.
Yeah, and I'll listen to binaural beats as I'm doing this. Usually, when I meditate too. I
You'll
think it
listen to
helps.
what?
I'll listen to by different binaural beats as
Oh,
I'm meditating
nice.
too, just to kind of help me focus a little bit more.
Sure.
Um, and then I'll really go into just an envisioning practice, and I'll just start envisioning myself with the different goals that I have, and affirmating that. And so it's kind of a little double whammy there, trying to be efficient with my time, but also spend time to just really calm myself down, figure out what is it that my inner self is trying to tell me. And in that meditating process, if I'm realizing, well, this one thing keeps coming to my mind, even though I'm trying to, like, shut it off, that might be something I need to, like, dive into and figure out, why is this bothering me, right? And that kind of helps me a little bit. So it's really just starting, just like, computer, you got to reboot the computer once in a while. I think that's our brain is the same way. Got to reboot it. If there's a problem, a little window that keeps popping up, then let's solve that, right? And then from there, just kind of take it, whatever else that I'm feeling. But
I love that. You went over so many things in there. I mean, just from, the fact that you're like, I try and come up with the word or the thing that I can focus on. I let everything else go to the universe. I
yeah,
mean, that's it. Meditation is learning to do that connection between the subconscious and the conscious, where you're just focusing on that one thing and you're just letting everything, because you're going to get distracted, but it's
yeah,
learning to have the ability to let it go and come back.
yep,
And
yep.
you, I mean, that's, and
That's the real recovery side of it. I think is just realizing, yeah, giving your brain space to just really clear out and start listening to who you really are, listening to what you really need. I think is just the biggest thing.
Totally. Well, and here's another thing. Sometimes, we talked about this in another podcast, but it was like you really don't always have time every day to do every kind of recovery that you might want to do.
Oh, totally.
So I'm getting behind this idea that I think that when you're better prepared for situations, typically it takes less of a toll on you, and so you don't need as much recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of preparations or things do you do that actually help your day go smoother, help you get less of that stress and less of that kind of buildup so that you don't need as much recovery? What kind of preparation do you do?
I would say daily is for sure the meditating. Every single morning I'm meditating and doing that. Which yeah, if there's a few days I go off, I can feel it. I can really feel the
Yeah.
difference. And then I think also just like recovery wise, like doing something you actually genuinely love doing, like spending time in like your week, like fueling that side of you, because maybe you have to work and it's a job. Like I bet there's people listening that like are in a career they maybe don't love and they're trying to get out of it. That's why they're trying to hustle or whatever, trying to do whatever it is. But like still feeding that true self, because that's what, like we were mentioning earlier, like figuring out, well, if why the reason why you need to recover is because maybe you're not even doing what you really love or that's not fueling you. Then spending time, I think what I like to do is just spend some time in my week just to do something that I really do love. Then it helps, whether that's like working out or or that's like working on a side project or whatever that is. And I feel like that helps me recover because I'm like, wow, that fueled me, that gave me some purpose. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. I think so many people, they start to see their whole life as like work or responsibility or things they don't like. And it's like
Yeah.
you're putting time into that because it's the most important thing in your life, whether it's your family, your work, or your school, or whatever it is. And even though it drains you, that doesn't mean you don't love it. But if you don't take that time to actually do some of the things that you really do love, you just get overwhelmed. And it happens to everybody. And that's where it's like recovery, I mean, in this case, can really be just rebalancing your outlook on your life, being able to look inward and say, do I enjoy what I do? Well, I make time for the things that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
Huge.
And it doesn't have to be,
point.
yeah, because it's like just like the dancing thing, like that to me helps me. It's nothing to do with meditation or whatever else, but it helps me. So if working on building a boat with your kid is what's going to make you feel like, okay, that's listening to your true self, then that's your recovery, man. Like that's great. You know what I mean? So
I love it.
Self-discovery,
Well, and that's what makes us each individual. I mean, and that's again where you're saying you had to do that self-discovery. You got to know who you are and what you like and what kind of helps you feel that fulfillment.
Yeah, totally.
Huge. Okay. Let's go over to the two biggest questions that I love. One is big lesson that you're learning right now, something that is impacting your life that you're really going, that's something true that I'm learning.
I think where I'm at in life is discovering, it's just still a continual self-discovery. Like I know I definitely don't have it all figured out. I think where I'm at right now is figuring out what balance means. And, I think realigning myself with higher goals and then making sure I balance that. So like, you start achieving new goals, you're like, okay, this is great. Okay, what are the next ones? Well, in doing that process and reaching this next level, how do I maintain those core principles? How do I balance those different things? And so, there's always all these cool things there's always a lot of things I want to be doing, but just figuring out what's most important for me and balancing that and thinking long term. I think that's one of the hardest things, at least for my friends, people our age. It's like, you have to think the long term game. And I think sometimes we get so caught up on, okay, what's next? We don't think long term. And so like for my health or for whatever it is, it's just balancing myself and my life so that the long term works out better than if I were to try to just give everything right now. Does that make sense? Just like
totally.
Yeah, just trying to balance and figuring out what that means and for me.
Well, and I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast on this. I mean, balance is like It's the most like used word that I think nobody experiences.
Amen.
I
Amen.
mean,
Like
I've
nobody
sat in
knows what
on
it is.
so many. I think I sat in on several years of the entrepreneurship lecture series at BYU. I mean, even when I wasn't a student, I still go.
Yeah.
And it's like, but the thing is, I swear almost every lesson, every speaker, they'd have a Q&A session and they'd be like, how do you find balance? And it was like, I think every one of them was like, balance is an illusion and it doesn't exist. And like, because the thing is like, I mean, if you're a student, are you really going to tell me that you split your day up into like school, fitness and friends, like sleep and like eating and taking care? I mean, there's no way.
Yeah.
You're
No.
not doing it.
Well,
Nobody
and
does that.
and I think at different times in different lives, you can handle different things. So like people
Sure.
that are going through a lot of emotional, like maybe there's something going on emotionally, they're not gonna be able to have as much capabilities or a mental brain, what is it, like real estate to like work on the harder things, where like on side hustles or whatever. Whereas if someone was, if you're single, don't have any other problems, you're chilling, you don't have any families or whatever that is, maybe you have more mental real estate to focus on other things. So that balance could look different year to year, depending on your lifestyle.
Yeah, no, I think you're really smart to say that you got to look at your goals, look long term and say, what priority am I giving to these in my life right now? What's my balance?
Yeah.
I guess. Because that is you want balance. And I think I mean, this is for the speakers to hear you, but I'm just going to point out in my life, I've taken times where I thought I will get so much farther ahead if I work 100 hours a week on this business. And I just, it was kind of a badge of honor that I skipped the party and I worked.
Well, and that's what I'm figuring out is like, is it worth skipping the party? Like, for me, is it worth it?
I want to know what you think. Is it?
I'm figuring that out, dude. I'm really
well, let me, because here's the thing. I started figuring out that every time I went to a party, and this wasn't just jumping up and down music, like raving. It's like, every time I went to a party though, I pretty much met a person who could solve my problem. Or I met a person who I could solve their problem business-wise. And it was just like, all the opportunities I needed were with the people, and I was at home working and missing it all.
And that's what I think I'm really realizing, Mikey, is that like, because here's the deal. Let's be real. All these like really successful people, they're like, oh my goodness, I hustled through all my 20s and that's what made me my 30s. Like, that's why I'm set for life. And I'm like, okay, great. But then like these people and then like 20 years down the road, they're like, oh, actually, I wish I would have gone back and spent more time doing this. I'm like, so and then I'm like running through different case scenarios and I'm like, okay, so either I really listen to what they say and then look back and realize that the same thing, or I don't listen to what they say. Maybe I don't end up in the position that they were. And then it's like, so I'm just looking at both of these and trying to figure it out and be like, and I think that's really where it comes down to individual, because maybe for me, I know looking back, some people just really don't care for some social things. Some people do, know? But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, because I feel like you get some advice for some people and you get different advice from other people. So you got to be careful on what you're listening to, what you decide to take
You're
home.
Totally
but
right. No, I think it's true. And the thing is, it's like, again, like you said, some people care about the social, some people don't. But the other thing is, I personally, I'd love to meet somebody, fall in love, and have a happy relationship. And when I'm only working, that's not balance. Yeah. I'm not actually working towards my other big goals. I'm just working on one big goal. So if we're really looking at all of our big goals, kind of Stephen Covey, what are your roles and goals?
Yeah, classic.
You always end up back there. But no, I think my biggest thing with that is find somebody who has the life that you want, and then find out how they got there. And then if that balance fits you, follow that. Hopefully you get it. Okay, last big question, and I love this one. And this has been so awesome. I think everybody who listens to this is going to get a lot out of this, and they're going to be feeling like, oh, this girl gets me. Like, exactly what
I feel. Yeah.
Okay, last question. If everybody in the world was going to listen to this, what's your message for the world?
Okay, 3 words: dream, plan, do.
Dream, plan, do.
I genuinely, and I don't know my parents. Okay, let me give some backstory behind this. So growing up, my dad, anytime I want to read some like fantasy book, he'd be like, okay, sick, you can read that only after you read a personal development book. So by the time I was done reading a personal development book, I was like, I don't want to read another book. I'm done for a little while. You know what I mean? And so then it'd be the same thing like a few months later. So I grew up in this, like, and my parents did MLM for a long time, so we'd go to these conferences and just get super hyped up, right? So I got a point in my life where I genuinely believed I could do anything. And I still feel like that. Like, my parents brainwashed me for the best way possible, and I'm so thankful for them. Like, I owe everything to the way that they raised me. But, and so I just feel like a lot of people don't even dream big enough, and they don't even genuinely believe that those possibilities can actually happen. Like, the universe and whatever you want to call it is so working towards you. And I think people need to internalize that, and stop listening to the person or yourself that's telling you that's not going to happen. Like, really take your dreams, write it down, plan it out, and execute. Like, it's cliche, but that's just what's happened to me in my life, is when I really realized that the only barrier for me and what I want to achieve is myself, and taking ownership of that, and then just executing on it. The sky is not even the limit. Like, it's just, there's so many possibilities out there.
Well, and I'm curious, because the thing is, it sounds like you really grew into believing that by hanging around other people who were trying to believe in themselves and do that.
Yeah, you are 100% the product of everyone around you, 100%. And I think
somebody else is trying to they know it's wrong. They know that the limits aren't really there and that they can do anything, but they have a hard time really acting on that or becoming that person. What do you think they should do?
I honestly believe it, kind of like Joe Dispenza talks about, is seeing yourself in the place and showing up as that person.
Nice.
Okay, like, I think that's the biggest thing, is if maybe you have this big dream. Okay, so when I mean dream planning, it means, okay, I'm going to specifically start seeing myself as this. I can't tell you how many manifestations or things that I've meditated, it's come into life just because of, like, okay, I'm putting in my mind, and I'm going to start acting as if I already have it. I'm going to start thanking, I mean, if you're religious, thanking God for already having this or whatever. And I think literally it falls into place. Sometimes it's not in the way that you expect it or not in the time that you want it to, but I think things always work out that way. And I also, but like, surrounding yourself is really important with people that you really do love. But I also believe is, you can be in a really negative, or maybe an environment that's not succeeding, and you can still succeed there too. I mean, you think I think it's just you had to have the mental, the capability to dream and to really put yourself in that position and really start seeing yourself and showing up as that person. I think that's what has made the biggest difference in my life.
So big. You can do anything, guys. You heard it here.
Yes. Take over the world. Woo!
Take over the world. It's yours. Guys,
good stuff.
Big thank you to Kiannalie for being on the show. Guys, if you want to check her out, you're going to see below her handles, where you can find her website, collaborate with her, help her in her mission. If you guys want to hear more of her, you can find that all below. So Thank you, Kiannalie. Thank you for being on the show.
Of course.
Have a great night.
Take care.